All right, thank you and welcome everyone. Kathy, can you do a roll call for us?
Present.
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 Here.
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 Here. Here.
All right, thank you. So tonight, we have the honor of recognizing Dave Dornan. You know, a lot of people don't realize how much volunteer work goes on to keep the city safe and running smooth. And you know, there's a whole group out there that just volunteers their time. And without them, there's a lot of things that would not happen. Or without their volunteer work, there's a lot of things that would cost a lot more money. And so we greatly appreciate the folks on, you know, the auxiliary police department, on the EMA, and those kind of groups. And today, want to recognize Dave for his long service. Dave, if you can come up here with your wife, I'd appreciate it. Hi. Thank you so much for putting up with it.
Hey, no problem.
Without a supportive wife, this doesn't happen.
No problem.
Yeah, so thank you. Well, just let me read this out loud then for everyone. The certificate of recognition is presented to Dave Dornan on this 20th day of September 2017 by the City of Lockport for serving as an emergency management agency volunteer for the City of Lockport from 2001 to 2017. Your dedication, loyalty, and commitment to Lockport community has helped increase the quality of life for all of its residents, and we truly appreciate all the time and effort you put forth in helping keep Lockport the city of historic pride. Yeah, I mean that, David. Thank you so much for everything.
Just a few words, if I can get through it. I'm not much of a speaker. First of all, I wish to thank the mayor, the city council, staff, chief of police, and all police officers and firemen who I've had the privilege of working with. I've made a lot of friends in all these years. My fellow EMA members, police officers, firemen, not only in Lockport, but in all the towns and villages that we've helped out at times of emergencies and festivities. Thank you for all the citizens on occasion who came out and offered me water, coffee, and asked a lot of questions. How long before the streets will be open? When will electricity be back on? I'd like to thank my wife, who allowed me to do this, even though I spent many, she spent many sleepless hours worrying about me. So thank you, Barbara. And it's been a pleasure to serve the city of Lockport. Thank you.
Dave, I got a couple words I want to say, if you don't mind. Okay. Tonight we're actually recognizing Dave for 16 years of service, and over that 16 years of service, he's actually accumulated over 10,000 volunteer hours. I think that's phenomenal. Wow. The nice thing about it was the fact that whenever I needed Dave, no matter what time of the day, I'd call, and he was always available, so he came out for me. He was one of our very active members. The next person I'd really like to thank is his wife, Barb, for sharing Dave's time with us. So, congratulations.
Well, we'll get a picture with your phone.
No, two.
All right, everybody, big smiles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bravo.
Very nice.
Those won't be easy shoes to fill, Dave, so I'm sure Phil's looking hard, but we really appreciate everything you've done. All right, next thing we want to do is we have a business spotlight tonight. David Rickards here. So, David, come on up and tell us all about Port in the War.
How you guys doing? I have the Wine and Martini Bar, which is on the corner of 9th and State Street. Some of you may have been there. Basically, we're more than a bar. We serve food. We have really good appetizers. Some of you have tasted them. Thursdays through Sundays, entertainment. So we have comedy bingo on Thursdays from 8 to 10. Live music Friday and Saturdays, and then Sundays are my personal favorite. Is open mic night because we get a lot of talented people that come from all over, like not just in Lockport, but just the surrounding areas to jam. And I mean, yeah, then we have, you know, spirits and things. So
It is a fun place. I've been there, had a chance to go there. It has a very good vibe, and it is fun, so we
Yeah.
appreciate you being here.
yeah, actually, thank you for reminding me. I am trying to introduce. I want to start putting tea in there, which is. It's just some kind of thing, because I'm a big tea drinker, so I'm trying to do like some infused oil teas. So I mean, it's not as scary as it sounds, but it's just, it really enhances the taste and, you know, things like that. So these are just, there's like other things that I'm planning for, you know, the future. Hopefully I can stay in business and be with this lovely community. And also, I want to do anything I can to help the community, so just feel free to come by and let me know if there's anything I could do for anybody.
All right, Dave. Thanks for picking Lockport. I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to the mayor's report. You know, one of the things that I wanted to address, because I think it needs to be addressed, and that is the problems that we're having with heroin. It's not just Lockport, and I think a lot of times communities don't like to talk about it because they're like, oh, we don't want to make our town look like it has a problem. They all have problems. And you know, one thing is sticking our heads in the sand isn't going to help it. I know Chief has been very active and has been doing a number of things to try to address it. And Chief, do you want to speak to those?
You bet. Good evening, Mayor, council members. I got to work.
Not so much.
I do want to talk to you about a very serious issue. We have said we have an epidemic of heroin overdoses, not just in Lockport, but throughout our nation. It's caused by the influx of fentanyl-laced heroin. Fentanyl is a synthetic drug. Heroin is a plant-based drug, but the fentanyl is very powerful. So when it's laced with heroin, it causes a more intense high and unfortunately causes more heroin deaths. I'm really glad that this council has chosen to support this program that we have, Safe Passage, and I think you'll understand why when you read these statistics. So in 2005, we had 4 opioid-related deaths, mostly heroin, of course, right here in our city, right here in Lockport. 1 person was saved through the use of Narcan. So all of our officers carry this Narcan. Narcan is a drug as well, but it brings people from the brink of death back to life. So if we catch them right after they stop breathing and they have no pulse, we administer a nasal Narcan through their nose as we pump their chest and get the Narcan working. We can save them. We just started carrying that in 2015. We had 1 save. In 2016, we had 5 opioid-related deaths. We had 3 Narcan deployments, 2 people were saved, 1 died. But this is the alarming part, and this is why I wanted to address it today. In 2017, we've already had 4 opioid deaths. We administered Narcan 9 times. 9 times. Our officers are getting so good at it, some have saved 2 people. And only 1 of them people died. So we would actually have 12 deaths if it wasn't for Narcan. And again, that's because of fentanyl-laced heroin. And what's important is these aren't just people dying, these are young people dying. If they had died in a traffic crash or a crime-related incident, the public would be up in arms. But these are normal kids that made a bad decision, sometimes because of an injury, sometimes it's just a bad decision. But it's getting to a point where every one of us knows a heroin addict now. It's a terrible, terrible problem. So in January of this year, we started the Safe Passage program with your approval, and I can't thank you enough. We had 11 people come through the program, 11 people. 9 of them are on the road to recovery. A mother came in to speak with me last week, and daughter's been in the program for 6 weeks, and she said her daughter's gained 15 pounds. She's doing phenomenal. She's out of state. We sent her out of state. As you recall, we put money in our budget from the federal asset forfeiture account. Can't think of a better way to spend our asset forfeiture drug money on helping people with a drug problem. And the reason I'm bringing it up today mostly is so we can spread the word more about safe passage. I know there's members of the media here as well, and I would hope that they would report on the statistics that I just said in an effort to get those people that are addicts to come in to our program. We treat them with dignity and respect. You know, I know that, you know, the police and heroin addicts in the past have not had a good relationship with the police because we normally come in contact with them under bad circumstances, theft, domestic battery, or whatever. But they'll be treated with dignity and respect when they come in. So we're hoping we can get the word out, because for every heroin addict that comes in, there's 20 or 30 more out there that are addicts that aren't coming in yet, because they either don't know about the program or they're not ready. But when they're ready, we're ready for them, and all they got to do is walk in the police station, and we get them immediate treatment. So spread the word. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chief, I appreciate it. Like you said, 11 people come through. It's 11 people that would not have gotten help, most likely, and any one of those folks could have, you know, been another statistic. So I'm glad we're not ignoring the problem and addressing it. So thank you for all the work you're doing with that.
Yeah. Chief, can I ask a question? What's the age groups? Like, what's the youngest age group? I think a lot of people don't
Nobody under 20, but we had somebody as old as 55. The majority of them in their 20s. Well, one person 55.
Okay.
All right, anybody have anything for liaison reports?
I do for...
You could go first. I don't want to go first.
We'll go this way then, I'll go first.
Go ahead.
I just want to put something out there. The Lockport Chamber of Commerce and the Homer Chamber of Commerce have a combined event coming up in December 5th, something to think about. It's the Lockport High School Madrigals. They come for a luncheon at the public landing. It's usually very well attended and a lovely program. So put that on your calendars, December 5th.
December what again?
5th.
December 5th, okay.
It's a luncheon.
Okay, thank you. What do you got there, Jim?
For me, for under planning and zoning, the aldermen and alderwomen probably have been getting a lot of emails about vital apartments in Lockport. I've been watching social media too in the neighborhoods, kind of talking about a lot of that stuff. The applicant has reviewed all their numbers and everything like that, and they have decided to back off of what they're actually doing here and reevaluate everything. So you can tell the communities, you can kind of let everybody know that they've backed off their petition. They're no longer.
The one on Farrell?
The one on Farrell.
Really?
The apartments on Farrell, 264 apartments or anything. So I know everyone's been getting emails and a lot of information, so you can let everybody know.
Good, thanks.
Okay. Wow.
What else going on? Anything over here? Catherine, you said you had something?
Do anybody else have anything or no? Okay.
I do have.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe.
Sure? Yeah. Okay. Well, today we had, the Chambers had the Member Spotlight Luncheon. It wasn't a lot of people there, but it was very informative. I wish more people would, a lot of the businesses would have come. It was supposed to be like a networking and mingling opportunity, but they also did a highlight on their new website that the Chambers has. Very informative, and it's actually connected to, it's going to be connected to the Lockport website so that one can go from one to the other to get information and updates on upcoming events and things like that. So that was very informative. The representative from the library, the White Oak Library in Lockport was there. And she gave us a calendar of, you could go on their website or the Chambers. They have, for October, they have a full calendar of events that's happening and very interesting topics. And they're going to have also the White Oak Author Fest, and that's on September 30th. It's on a Saturday between 10 and 4 p.m. That's at the Crest Hill Branch location. So a lot of things happening that people can get involved with. And also, there was a representative there of the First Lockport United Methodist Church. The pastor was there, and then one of the parishioners was there talking about the truth about cancer. And they're going to have 5 consecutive Sundays beginning September 24th from 2 to 5 on how to prevent, what you can do, and a lot of without taking a lot of medication. And so it's quite informative. It's a different way to look at treating cancer. So I just wanted to kind of give that heads up. My last thing that I wanted to mention is we're starting to put our committee together on the Beautification Recognition Award. So we started with just 5 people on it. On the 28th, we should have probably around 10 people that will be there in attendance, and we're going to start forming groups on how we're going to actually proceed in recognizing the residents that do that little extra step in fixing up their home, whether it's for Halloween or harvest look to their home, Christmas, spring, and summer. So we're going to be recognizing these people. And just to give a heads up, Mayor, that we were thinking about perhaps starting out as, if we're going to start this early, for them to be recognized here at City Hall through one of our meetings, where you can recognize them, and we're going to try to prepare some signs for their yards, so that way they can take that back and you know, kind of just, you know, let people know that they've just been awarded. So,
Yeah, that's
you know,
great.
So hopefully it'll all work out.
Oh, it's gonna, I'm glad. Thank you for doing that. I really look forward to what you guys put together, so thank you. All right, Catherine, what do you got?
I just wanted to say thank you to Christine, and then also to David with your help with the sweet crawl. The big group I had with loved it, so kudos to you guys. I had a lot of feedback that a lot of people who I had brought had not been to all 10 businesses in Lockport, so they thought it was great, and so they really enjoyed it. So here's where my liaison comes in now. Got 5 things, I think, going back to repeat here. Trivia night's coming up. Special Olympics fundraiser, November 4th. Get your teams ready. My husband has secured his team already. He gets really into it. So I hope to encourage you to come out for the Special Olympics fundraiser that the police station helps raise funds with their trivia night, and it's a great success. Number 2, the construction is done in the police station. It looks great. We still need to get tables and chairs inside there. We welcome the police welcomes any members of the council or the community to come tour it. That room will be available for scouts, condo associations, neighborhood associations. You just need to call in to reserve the room. So keep that in mind if you're looking for a room. The police station has one available. Just a reminder, the officers are wearing pink badges for the month of October. That is for breast cancer awareness. And then don't forget that November is No Shave November, and the funds will be going toward prostate cancer research. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Catherine.
Can I just ask, when will the community room be actually available that people could request to reserve it?
As soon as we get the furniture.
Oh, okay. And you'll let us know?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
That's a dance troupe.
They're using old chairs.
All right, my friends, I don't think Mike DeVivo was able to make it tonight, so we'll jump over that, and we'll go into Pam. What do you got, PZ1?
Thank you. Tim Geisler with ML Realty Partners is requesting a reduction to their letter of credit for Building 3, which is located at 14555 South Gauger Road in the Heritage Crossing Corporate Center. The original letter of credit, which was dated November 7th of 2016, was established at the start of the construction of that building in the amount of $474,766.50. To date, there have been no reductions. The site and public improvements have been inspected and approved. A maintenance bond in the amount of 10%, or $47,478, will be established and held for 1 year. Staff did complete a landscape inspection on August 27th. All plant material and sodded areas were found to be in good conditions. We will do another inspection in the spring just to confirm the maintenance condition and continued conformance with the approved plan. Staff is recommending approval of this letter of credit reduction and seeks direction from the council to place this reduction for Building 3 at the next city council meeting on October 4th.
All right, crew, any questions, concerns? Seem pretty straightforward. All right, very good. Something we can do on a consent agenda? All right, please. All right, what else you got?
Okay. The next item, which is a plat of consolidation and right-of-way dedication. This is for the Ganesha Gayatri or Gigi Temple. This was essentially a requirement that was part of their annexation agreement, which required that the property be consolidated or re-subdivided into one larger lot. And then as part of discussion that occurred at the Plan and Zoning Commission, there was some concern that should there be a sidewalk be required, that the proximity of the detention pond may create some issues. So they agreed to dedicate 7 feet of additional right-of-way so that if a sidewalk does need to be installed, there'll be sufficient distance between that and the detention area. This did go to the Plan and Zoning Commission on September 12th. There was no discussion by the commission since it was pretty much an obligation that they had. By a vote of 7-0, the Plan and Zoning Commission did recommend approval, and staff is seeking direction to place this request on the October 4th City Council agenda for final action.
All right, there, any thoughts, questions, concerns?
Yeah, Pam, the sidewalk, I thought that was in their final phase. Was there a sidewalk included on that?
Well, there was discussion is if the right-of-way and improvements for the overall corridor, that they would be obligated to do the same as what anyone else on that corridor would be obligated to provide.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. Put it on the consent agenda then? This needs to be voted on?
It should be on the action item.
Okay.
Yeah.
Action item, please. All right, Ben, you going to talk about our electrical aggregation?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of the council. At the last meeting, we had a little bit of discussion from a liaison report in regards to these notices that have been going out with the Will County Electric Aggregation Group. Homeowners have been getting opt-out letters. There was a lot of confusion. I think we cleared up quite a bit of it at the last meeting, but I just wanted to put more of a formal response into the packet. As we discussed, Homefield was the prior energy producer at .069. Homefield Energy will be the new provider, or excuse me, that was Homefield Energy. The new one will be Dynergy at .071, which happens to be a very similar rate to ComEd. But Dynergy is a fixed rate for the next year, and we don't know where ComEd will go over the next 12 to 14 months. So most homeowners got this opt-out letter. What I wanted to clarify from the last meeting was they sent these to existing Homefield Energy customers and ComEd. They did not send these notices to people that were with a third party, so that might have been some of the confusion. What they did decide to do since then is to send an additional letter out to all the third-party people, just welcoming them to join the opportunity at any time they wish. So basically, if you don't send back in the opt-out letter by this Friday, you will be opted in if you were contacted. If you're on a third party, you'll still be with the third party. So, and I had just an information packet in here, in your packet from the Will County Government League. We've done press releases, we've been on the website, Facebook, emails, phone calls. We've tried to get the word out as best we can, but there are still some questions out there, so we wanted to try to clarify.
Ben, if you could do me a favor, can you make a note so that we can discuss this later? But next time you and I are at a Will County governmental meeting, I'd like to bring this up with Hugh. One of the problems I had with it is the card that people get. It seems it's hard to really know if it's somebody who's being a shyster or if this is legitimate.
Official notification.
And we all get these phone calls, and the phone calls all swear up and down that, you know, they're, oh no, we're part of ComEd or we're part of this, and when you press them, they're not. And so I think maybe the way these cards are designed needs to have a little more thought to them. Sure. And so why don't we bring it up with Hugh and see if we can design these in a way that it's very clear what this is about.
You bet. It's a good idea.
All right, what else you want to talk about? Median sign?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and members of the council. I do have the median. We did get a permit from IDOT for our median sign. It's taken all summer. We wanted to get your permission to proceed with that sign. I've included all the specifications for it in your packet. We went out and this is a faux sign. It's not stone or wood or steel. It's made of a very high-density foam, and there's renditions of it in your packet. We tried to emulate the colors that are the existing out there with the LED sign. Parvin Kloss was the low bidder at $26,150. We have budgeted $50,000 this year to put the sign in. We're still waiting for the final approvals on the electricity to run to it from IDOT, but they've told me verbally that it wasn't really a problem. It was just a matter of processing paperwork, which could take another 30 to 60 days. But with the lead time in the sign, we wanted to get at least the authorization to order that sign. By the time it gets installed, we'll probably have the approval for the electric, which could also be done at time, weather permitting, because they'll have to bore under 159th. And so we're looking for permission to proceed with the gateway median for the sign only, as far as tonight.
Sure. Okay. Thoughts, concerns?
Yeah, I have a question on that.
Sure.
If I look at this Parvin Kloss and I read the measurements, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, the sign where it says like historic Lockport is about this tall, where the L is, and then the part that says historic and Lockport is about this big, if I'm reading that right, for size-wise, or am I wrong when I read it?
Are you saying literally you think it's only that big?
Yeah, the green part that says historic Lockport, because that part would be 2 feet, 8 inches, and then the sign part would be 5.5 inches, if I'm reading this right, or am I reading it wrong? Because the whole monument's only 6 feet tall, so, but the actual writing would only be, like, this would be the OCT Lockport, you know, across this way. So it seems very small on that part, long part of a stretch to try and read. So that's my question.
The overall sign, I don't have those specific, I can see them, I'm having a hard time reading them.
On our packet, it's page 35 out of 93.
Yeah. So the overall height is actually 9 feet.
It says 8 feet.
7 feet from pillar to pillar.
I think where the difference is, that is the stone, that was the original design, it was 9 feet tall. So everyone knows, even the new alderman and alderman, this sign was meant to, when we were putting it all together, kind of, we had a presentation in front of the entire board about putting the sign together. Using some features from around town, but then reusing some of the wood signs that we had around town, right? So they don't go to waste. The ones that you probably see on
There was cedar.
Division and Cedar.
And,
They're both busy to
that was
Homer.
falling apart. We're taking that off and putting it on. That was, so those should all be the same size. IDOT kicked it back and said can't have everything solid up there in that median, which we got a lot of discussions about. Other towns have.
Had to be a break wall.
So it's breakable, it's foam and everything, but that size should be the same as our original. The foam should be the same size as what is at the original, so.
But
The quote says 8 feet tall by 17 feet wide.
So what is this that I'm looking at then? What's page?
I'm looking at the wrong thing too. I'm
So
looking by
there's a
6 foot
stone
6.
one, and then there's foam. At the end of the packet is what they submitted as foam.
I'm just reading the part that says historic Lockport, like it's the measurements there.
Green part, which was trying to
Yeah,
emulate the other.
I'm just trying, I'm trying to see if, so the monument's this big, the wording's gonna be this small according to this. If I'm reading this wrong, let me know, but I'm reading it as 5.5 inches.
I think the good question is, it needs to match our existing signs.
Correct.
But my concern is it's gonna be on 355, the sign goes this way, I'm driving this way, I'm going straight, the sign is this way, so how am I gonna read that small print?
It's on 159.
I know, but it's
It's in
on
the
the
median
median.
in the center, yeah.
It's not this way, where I'm driving this way, it's, right? Or am I reading?
It's at a slight angle, so if everyone's
angled
seen the
towards you.
cones.
As you come into town,
They're
yeah.
on the median.
That's
when you get off
that's
of
how wide it's
355.
gonna be, yeah.
There's orange cones that are out there. Yeah, it's slightly tilted right
So
to face
is-
traffic. But it's no, to be honest, the intent was it's not supposed to be any different than the sign, their existing signs that we have. So we're not scrapping the old signs, right? So it's supposed to be the same size, same everything as the old signs that you drove by, you would see.
It just seems for that part of an intersection, a very small sign to read. Or what is the point of the sign? I mean, it
Right. It's a welcome monument sign, welcome to the city. You have to follow IDOT standards. It could only be so big. That median is only probably less than 20 feet wide, so you can't go with a larger monument. I guess if you wanted to redesign the logo and try to make the text a little bigger, I can try to re-verify what the actual text size is.
So you're worried on this, because it looks to me it's about a foot tall almost.
No, she's looking at this.
I'm reading the paperwork they sent.
Are you reading the quote, or are you reading the...
Well, yeah, I'm reading the one that is for Parlin Claus.
Yeah.
Well, 6 foot, oh, I'm looking at the one that has 9 foot on
That
it.
only says
I
6
get
foot
you.
6 high as opposed to 9.
6 foot 6.
It does, yeah, so that's why I'm
I
asking.
think
What,
their scale is off, so we need to reconfirm.
We can reconfirm that. The one I have in front of me says 8 feet tall and 17 feet 8 inches wide, but I can re-verify before the next meeting.
This one says 6 by 6 by 11, or 1110.
Yeah.
Yeah, the quote from Parvin is a smaller size, so.
but see, this one I'm looking at says 5.5.
Yeah.
So, well, that was,
So everyone knows, I mean, like, other communities, you can get the very big ones, right, the bigger ones, Orland Park, Tinley Park, and so forth, Joliet, right, the corner on Gauger all the way down, or like Homer Glen's got a, looks like 11 by 17, so, right, what
guess it's right here, right there,
they gotta go from into Homer Glen. So, this is, again, I think, matching what we already have, so we didn't waste any money.
Yeah.
We just have
Good
to,
point to check that dimension.
yeah, check the dimensions.
All right,
just reading.
Ben, why don't you give it a, check it out, so Catherine doesn't have to drive with her cheaters on to read the sign.
Well, I'm reading the paperwork. I grabbed rulers to just try and figure it out.
Well, we would make that historic
Measured
Lockport
it.
version as big as we can, and I can re-verify the actual size. We may have had a couple different renditions, and I might have included an older one.
I mean, proportionally, the way it looks now, it fits well, so we'll see how that plays out.
So the cones that are there, that's what I should drive past and look at, and that's where it'll be?
Those are the locations, yeah. The
And that's
cone
how
is
wide too, correct?
Go to
about,
page.
yeah,
How do you know which page it is?
yeah.
So I don't want that oncoming traffic when I'm going to Jewel to crash into me because they're busy reading that sign on the other side.
That shouldn't happen. Yeah.
I'm just making
That should
sure.
not happen.
If you go to Plan Detail 1 or and page L1, you can see that the sign is angled.
Yeah.
And where is it?
This thing.
So the overall monument size,
I
just
thought
so
that
I
was
can
just the plan.
clarify my direction here.
Sign in there.
I will re-verify with the company. I will email everyone the very specific sizes and what it is in case we have a conflict here. If we can leave it on as an action item for the next meeting, that'd be great. And if we can,
That's fine, let's do that.
Try to
Put on,
punch it
why
up
don't you
or
guys
not.
look into it? We'll
Sure.
put it on as an action item in case there's some last-minute concern, and we'll keep moving forward with it.
okay.
If you can, I'd also send out for the new people, the Tesca, what Tesca put together with a map around town.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So where the signs were, there were certain signs that we worked with Joanne, say, some said City of Lockport, like the ones on 3 through 5. Because it wasn't really appropriate to say historic Lockport, when you get off of 3 through 5, it's right there. But things, the signs that are closer to the our downtown say historic.
Like the one on New Avenue, I believe, we thought was best to have historic.
Okay.
All right, going to talk waste management?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. You have in your packet tonight the waste management contract extension. We discussed this earlier this year. And the Lockport City Council approved a 7-year contract with Waste Management back in 2011. That contract is still good until October 2018. But under paragraph 4 of the general provisions, the city and Waste Management can enter into negotiations to develop a new term, thereby producing some savings for us in the next year. So we feel that by negotiating with them directly, we were able to show some savings, about $96,000 over the 14 months that are left at the current rates. Right now, the regular rate is about $21.62. This is scheduled to increase on November 1st, but they're willing to forego that 3.5% increase that's scheduled for a contract renewal. In the new offer, instead of 3.5%, the escalator offer is at 2.95% for a 5-year and 2.75% for the 7-year. Those are your two options. There's also some options in there in regards to additional services if we want them. We had a nice presentation about At Your Door to add another $1.22 a month if desired. We could also consider a yard waste cart citywide for about 95 cents a month. Right now, existing homeowners, some about 2,000 have those waste carts themselves. They're paying about $2 a month for that rental themselves. So there's a couple of options on the table here. We're looking for direction in regards to what the council would like to do. We're certainly recommending the renegotiation to lock in these rates and not have an increase for 14 months. I've included in your packet the revised pricing for the next 5 to 7 years. I've got a lot of information on other cities and comparables and what other people are paying. I think Lockport's getting a favorable rate. We also included some information for the survey. We discussed putting a survey up on the website. We had over 400 responses. In summary, it looks like about 81% of the people were very likely or somewhat likely to use the At Your Door service. About 51% of them were willing to pay between $1 and $1.50 per month. About 79% of the people were likely or somewhat likely to use a yard waste cart. So there's some good information in there and a lot to digest. I also emailed out a separate summary. It was a green sheet you should have gotten by email that just also added what other cities were doing that we could research for contract length and extensions, and they're anywhere from 5 to 10 years, 7, 8, 9 years. Increases have been at 3, 2.5, 3 1/4. So it ranges differently at different locations. Some of those communities didn't have regular cart programs and they were sticker based, so it was hard to compare. But we wanted to try to give you as much information as we could, and get some feedback from you.
All right, crew, what are your thoughts, concerns?
What has been decided then on the recycling part of it? Since the survey went out,
Sure.
Are we going to not go with it? Because I think the majority did not want to pay for it.
So,
at least it looked like.
Yeah, right now, the contract it would be as is, right? That if you want a recycling cart, it's $2 for someone a month to add that to your service. If you wanted a citywide cart program to be launched, where we're hoping that the better good, that more people have more recycling, it's better for the environment, maybe there's less garbage in the community, that's recycling, yard waste carts, maybe it would help with leaves and branch pickups and things like that, there's a kind of a holistic benefit to the rest of the community if everybody has to participate with yard waste. But
were you asking about actual recycling, or were you talking about that At Your Door service?
Yeah, I'm sorry, which one? I'm sorry.
Okay. I meant the At Your Door service.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
So, I'll back up a little bit. So At Your Door is still a separate line item. It would be all in or all out at this point for another $1.22 a month. So right now, the contract doesn't have it, and we've gotten some favorable feedback. Some people are interested in it, some people aren't.
Based on that survey, though, didn't you get out of the survey that a lot of people would rather not the most?
You can look. It's in.
Yeah.
I thought you said 51%.
51% were willing to pay. Well, I might be talking about. I think 51% were willing to pay between $1 and $1.50. 81% were likely or somewhat likely to use it. So.
But that use it question is a little misleading, right? Because
Sure.
it's like, hey, if you got this for free, would you use
True.
it?
Right,
True.
so then half of those people said they'd pay.
Okay. Right.
So,
And the other question is, do you really put up there, do you want to pay nothing for it? Yeah, of course, people are going to say, I
Yeah.
want to pay nothing. for it.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
that was
So maybe
kind
the
of
50% is a better gauge, but, right now, we do have other recycling options that you can go to Will County. We don't know if that's going to
just
stay
for
long-term.
clarification, right?
Sure.
I mean, we could opt not to do anything right now, right? We still have
Correct.
a year left on the existing
Right.
contract. Obviously, Ben's presenting this as
Right.
an option.
Right.
My thought is that from the time we signed the last contract
Mm-hmm.
to now, was it 5 years ago, I believe?
Yeah, 6.
Gas prices have come down
Sure.
pretty substantially, right? That and labor are by far, I'm sure, the two biggest input costs for waste management. Labor shouldn't be going up 3 to 3.5% per year, right? There should be some efficiencies. I don't see why we would sign this now with a 2.95% annual increase. That doesn't seem favorable, right? That seems probably okay, but for negotiating a year in advance, I don't know that that's that favorable. And I also would, opinion on other things. You mentioned the yard waste where people can pay $2 now, or we could do 95 cents per house. What is it, like 20% of houses do it?
Yeah, about 2,000.
Yeah, so to me, the people who want it to pay the $2 is fine instead of burdening the other 80% that don't use it. So I think that current arrangement is fine. And I'm, after talking to residents and kind of thinking about it, although I think I would use it, I am not in favor of the at-your-door service either.
True.
All right, what else, Chris? Everybody else think?
I walked around and counted how many yard wastes were in my neighborhood today, because today's garbage day. And so I had 10% in my subdivision. 2 had garbage in them instead of yard waste, which was a little disturbing, because I don't know how they track that then when it
What's
gets
disturbing
dumped
is
in.
you lifting the lid to look inside.
I did look in the lids. Just because if you're going to do a thing, I want to make sure it's legitimately what's going on, okay? So I did, just because, want to make sure. But once I saw that there was 2 garbage cans overflowing with garbage that was supposed to be yard waste, I was like, okay, why are they doing that? Because you can get another can. So I asked, I mean, maybe we need to tell people they can get another can, because it's not that expensive to get an actual garbage can. So that was a little strange to me. But I did drive through so I looked at my 4th Ward. I went down Strawberry, Summit, Peachtree. They had about 6 yard waste cans. They're a little bit more mature, and when you go down to like Summit, there's bigger trees and stuff. So I wanted to see if neighborhoods that had bigger trees would have more yard waste. I saw the most yard waste down Division Street, which kind of made sense because for them, it's a busy street, so it would make sense to have the easier pickup. However, I did not see a lot, so that was the question why I asked, where are all the yard waste? Because you said about 2,000 people have yard waste. So I didn't find it where I lived. So that was my question there. Then I also realized I have a lot of townhomes who don't do yard service, like they have a company that comes through. I also called Lago Vista, and they have a service. However, a few people do maintain their own yards there for pleasure. So a lot of the people I represent, it would not be beneficial to them to have everybody with a garbage can for yard waste. And then at your door service, I didn't get anyone really who said they wanted it, because where we live is very close to the Lockport e-recycle. So for them, it was like I can just drive there and get rid of something when I would tell them how much it would be for the year. And so I don't see a benefit to either of those services at this time.
All right. Anybody else have thoughts?
Yeah. So everyone knows that's Mike sitting right there.
Yeah, Mike's here.
Right?
If he has
Come on
any
up,
questions.
Mike. It's all right. To be fair, I know Mike, but I've never had any issues with waste management in our neighborhood or anything. We had some issues and they were on it like right away. It was like the garbage trucks were leaking and we had some neighbors complain and they were right on it and they switched out trucks and did all that stuff. To Jason's point, I'll never complain if anybody ever goes for an RFQ, RFP, right, and really checks it right. That's our duty to actually do this. But I was intrigued with, Ben saying, let's talk about it, let's negotiate it, because there is a high level of service that we do have with waste management. So I did put Ben to the ringer. You could see the information that I had to make sure that we have our what we call the dirty dozen communities that we're always comparing everything to, that we do an honest comparison and we show that because we have to prove it to the residents. If you put that aside and say, what services should we essentially force residents to do, to have, to go, on. I was intrigued with the sticker program because you use a little garbage or a lot. It was pretty cool, but I know that we got away from the vehicle stickers because just the pain of going and get stickers, so that went away. But I think where we're at right now is like a good baseline of, we've got the carts, we got there. If somebody wants yard waste, they can get a yard waste cart, right? It's their choice. If somebody wants to do an e-recycle and everything, we have that in town. So we wouldn't be forcing somebody, especially people in Lago Vista or anywhere else, saying, you can throw out something every month if you wanted to. They probably don't have anything. I don't have anything that I throw out. I go there once a year maybe. So there's a lot of things that are to it. So I think we're at a good base. I would say, I was really intrigued with where, the numbers came in and how we compared to the percent escalators. We're adding more people, right? We're adding more areas, but those people are actually paying for that, right? So that it's not like it's a fixed cost. The more residents we get, Sagebrook, they go on, they pay for their service. When they're sitting there actually saying, lost my train of thought now, but when we're not forcing all these other people to join different things and to add on the services that we're at. The 3%, that's where I was going with, sorry. You know, the COLA raises and the salary raises and everything like that, that's there. You know, that's debatable on where that number is or where that can actually be.
So they've been getting, what, 3.5 on the current contract, I believe? And CPI, this is the first year it's been above 1. I think it's 2 something. 2.1. So they've been getting over 2% above CPI for the last 5 years.
And that's a valid question. I mean, Mike, I don't know if you can answer kind of where some of those play into.
Well, you know, to your point, CPI has been lower lately, and we've offered the city a reduction in that below 3% for either the 5 or the 7-year option. When we get into, you know, what our cost structure is, there's a lot of things that are just out of our control, such as disposal. Recycling processing is another factor. Yard waste disposal. And so, you know, we try where we can to, and we have made tremendous strides to lower our costs. We're using compressed natural gas trucks instead of diesel fuel trucks, which is why we've agreed to eliminate the fuel surcharge that was also in the contract. So, I mean, if you know, those numbers, you know, kind of are what we talked to staff about. Staff had expressed that they wanted to see something that was less than 3%. And if, you know, that's what we're, you know, we to the council. So, and there's certain fixed costs, as I said, that we have. When a new resident moves in, we deliver 2 carts to them. If somebody moves into an existing house, we deliver, and those carts aren't there, we deliver 2 carts to them. So there's an immediate cost to us when somebody new moves in, whether it's new construction or, you know, even an existing home where we have to deliver 2 carts. And then that's even before we've gotten paid from the city to provide that service. So if there's another concern about, you know, the escalators, we can certainly work with staff and talk about that further. The proposal also increases some services to the city as well. So we're going to increase the number of sanitation units that is available to the city each year. We're going to add another service that's going to reduce the cost to Old Canal Days by nearly $1,000 because we'll provide that Sunday service that Old Canal Days has had to pay for. We're going to add 2 additional weeks to the recycling calendar. So we're going to
the yard waste
pick up the yard waste. So we're going to be picking up the last full week of March and extending the yard waste season through the first full week of December. And I think that, you know, the other things we talked about, the yard waste carts, the At Your Door program is optional. That's not something that, you know, the city has to take, but we're adding services, we're holding your rate, and we're reducing the escalators.
And I think with all that together, I mean, there's a cost for anybody to rebid. Imagine Mike's not here, right? We're talking about anytime we rebid for our duty, right, to be a good board is to make sure that we're getting the best dollars and cents for all our residents, and by doing that, we'd have to bid it out, right? We'd have to actually show that. But if we can do that and not go through that mess and be locked in with something, right? I think Joliet did that, right, Ben? And they did it, they went out for bid, and the bids did not come in favorable, and they had to renegotiate with the existing vendor. So there is a risk on our side by doing that.
The only risk per se is that you have a 3.5% increase that's coming due in November. That'll be about 75 cents per household that will take effect if we do not renegotiate and select to. You don't have to pick At Your Door, you don't have to pick yard waste, you can continue the contract extension. If you look at the homework we did on that green sheet, You know, the average escalator for over a dozen communities is about 2.95. If you choose the 7-year extension, that's 2.75, so you're getting a pretty favorable escalator, and you're definitely getting a savings on what they had agreed to 7 years ago. But the bulk of the savings is that, you know, avoiding the increase that's coming, and we're trying to push that out until 2019 so that we can sync our fiscal period. So we're getting about 14 months with no increase. 3.5% on our current 2162 is about 75 cents per household.
Well, I mean, my opinion is I think Waste Management does a really good job. We never have any problems. I really don't get any complaints about it. You guys do a lot above and beyond, and I know, I guess the few times when I'll get a call, like somebody got their garbage can missed, I find out the garbage truck sent out there within the hour sometimes. So, I mean, I think Waste Management does a great job. I personally don't have a problem with it at the 5 or 7 years. I think you guys are right, though. I think as far as the at your door and the yard waste bin, you know, it was a fine service. They presented it, but I think probably the wisdom is just keep it at going to Public Works for getting rid of your recycle materials, and then yeah, if you want your bin, get a bin, right? I should probably get a bin instead of buying yard bags all the time. So, so keeping those off of this contract, I think, is fine. That's just my opinion, though. Is I'd be fine with even the 7-year. What's the escalator for 5 years again?
It's 2.95. And then it's 2.75 for the 7-year.
Okay.
And the average on the 12 communities was about 2.95.
I guess that's a good question. I mean, if you talk to Ben, I mean, can you tie that to CPI? So it's a different, or some factor of CPI, no more than?
There's a couple of different, if we're talking about CPI all items, we're gonna really be struggling. But there's other indices that there's actually a trash index. There's 2 trash indexes. There's like a water, sewer, and trash index. I think it's under CPI housing, that we've had in some agreements, that we could potentially look at. And I think it was combined with something tied to, you know, annual landfill increases. You know, that's something we could take a look at.
Jason would be the numbers guy, so.
Yeah, I mean, do you guys want to see if Mike or
yeah, Mike.
Yeah, Mike and Ben can kind of look at some of those subtleties? Would they make you feel more comfortable?
Yeah, I mean, and just to be clear, I'm not opposed to dealing with Waste Management. I have no issue with the service that we've gotten. I just, you know, when I see that we had 3.5% increases, and not being a trash guy necessarily, but I can't believe that that's actual cost, and then 3% going forward. I mean, that's just feels a little rich to me. So that was my only contention.
Well, I think what Mike brings up, I think it's interesting. If you guys don't mind, if you guys can look at some of those subtleties, if there's like, you know, things float a little bit with the indexes that you guys are mentioning, that would probably be helpful. I feel like at least we've done everything we can. I think your comparables to the other city shows that this is a good deal. So that's why I'm kind of okay. But if there's some subtleties that you guys can reach within those fluctuating indexes, let's take a look at it, and then we should be able to make a decision.
The issue with the fluctuating index, though, is it's very hard to budget. You know, you don't, you know, with fixed cost escalators, you know what it is. You know the answers to the test for the next 7 years. When it's an index, you know, you're
I'm doing it for Jason, to be honest with you. So, I mean, if you guys feel more comfortable with that. I mean, Jason's my numbers guy, so I do defer to him. So, I mean, if he thinks that's a wisdom, I'd go with that. But
so, off the top of your head, do you know what trash CPI has been for the last couple of years?
I don't have any agreements that are tied to that right now. In this area, nearly everything is a fixed cost escalator or fixed rate, and you know, you can see by the comparables that Ben had, it's 3% is roughly the industry average that's used year to year. Today, that's today.
Jason, I just looked it up, and I just have a 1-month CPI for trash, and it's 2.1, so it looks like it's tied right now to what the regular CPI is, but, you know, I don't have a multi-year.
Yeah, 1 month
I just brought up 1 month.
is pretty
Yeah.
tough.
Okay, so our options are, we can decide on a 5 or a 7, or we can ask these guys to go back and look at some of these fluctuation things.
Yeah, BLS actually does, they have good tables on this kind of stuff. I'll look. It'll
what
take
I'm
5
at.
minutes just to do a little bit of research
That's
outside.
what I'm
of
at.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys want to give a window here for Jason to look through that? We comfortable there?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Jason, and I'm sure we're going to work something out here, Mike, so thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much.
The size of the can, do we still have the option of 96 and 64, or just 96? Because it says the new standard container would be 96.
We'd like to standardize, you know, for new residents moving in, a 96-gallon pairing, so 96 for refuse, 96 for cart. There is a myriad of cart sizes out there, because the original cart size was 64 for trash and 35 for recycling. The feedback from some time ago was the 35 gallons were not big enough for most residents, so we upgraded those carts back in 2011. And so you've got this 64-35 combination on the recycle size. 64 is more or less the standard size for refuse, but there's probably a lot of residents that would just prefer to have the 96. Just, you know, your overcapacity is less of a problem than undercapacity, because if you don't have enough room, you're putting it outside the can, and then that's just leads.
Your guys got to get out.
That up is because I had somebody in a townhouse today ask me that question. They wanted to go from the 96 to the 64, because they only put like 1 or 2 bags in.
Mm-hmm.
And so they said, this big can doesn't do me any good, can I get a smaller can? So somebody asked me that specifically today.
Yeah.
But I do know a lot of
Trade 'em.
townhouses with the 2-car garages or some duplexes, 1-car garage, they have very limited garage space. And so that would be my question, can we still get the smaller cans? Because a lot of homeowners associations require you to have your cans inside your car.
Absolutely, right. I mean, if people are happy with their cart size now because of spacing issues, you know, we're not gonna, you know, we're not proposing pulling carts and exchanging them for bigger ones.
I just wanted to know the new standard though, because we're still approving townhomes and duplexes in town, that they have the option of the 64 and not just the 96.
Right. And that statement was probably made more for single-family homes. For townhomes, 64 is definitely the better pairing, because their bylaws typically prohibit them from keeping those carts outside the
So I just want to make sure we're,
unit.
I'm just reading this, making sure that's what I'm reading.
All right, well, Mike, we'll,
We just found something online, we were looking at, that the water and sewer and trash collection services have experienced average inflation of 4.79% between 2002 and 2017.
Yeah, but that's a 15-year period, right?
Yeah, it's long.
I'm looking, the last 4 were under 2%. So it's all relative to what you're looking
Right.
at.
And I think, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I don't know if you're looking for a certain number, Jason, if it's, you know, 2.5, 2.25, when you're looking at 0.5% on $21, I'm not sure what the math is that we're arguing about here, but,
It gets big when you look at it over 7 years.
yeah,
but-
true.
that's all right.
Yeah.
Jason's here for a reason.
Jason's thinking deep, because my comment to them
Good
was-
job, man.
Yeah, deep, because every dollar we increase it by monthly is $9,000 less than the town has to spend in the community, if you look at it that way.
Huh?
If there's 9,000 households, every dollar it goes up in premium is $9,000 less that goes in the community.
That's fine. We agreed to,
You know, yeah, impact.
so let's have Jason agree to do that with us and work with Ben, so that's where we'll go. We'll move forward on that.
So I guess I'm a little confused, are we,
Jason said he wants to look at some different kind
Just
of
chat tomorrow.
tables about this. and-
okay, but I mean, leave it as an action item for the next week, or?
Why don't we, do you guys feel comfortable? You feel like we'll be able to make a decision?
I would
All right,
think
then we'll keep it on as an action item,
Okay.
and we can get some new feedback, and then we can vote it up or down at that time.
And I'm guessing it'll be more, well, 7-year probably be a better deal.
It seems to me,
You have to make a motion.
right.
Yes.
And second, somebody will make a motion, somebody will second, either
Sure.
a 7-year or a 5-year.
Okay.
I mean, we have
We'll leave
those
it open
options,
still.
right?
Yeah, you bet. I mean, I'm definitely hearing no at your door and no yard waste
Yeah,
citywide.
I agree with that.
Right.
Because we'll need
No,
Sonny
keep the
to
yard
start
waste
working on
as
the
is,
contract
right?
too.
No forced yard waste, but the
Right,
the
right.
options.
But we'll get rid of the fuel surcharge. There's some legacy things in the old contract that we want to definitely throw out, so they'll get those out.
All right.
I want to thank Ben and everybody for looking into this, because it was one of those, well, you can't lose anything, right? We can go for RFP, that's.
Nothing to lose, sure.
No, and,
Doug and I can go through it, so.
and you did a good job, Ben, getting all the comparables. It's a fine deal, but let's take this one last look that's been requested by Jason, and we'll vote on it next time as an action item. All right, thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Can, what do you got?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I do have a couple items on the agenda this evening. The first is in regards to our RFQ engineering selections that we have made. This is an informational item only. Just to get into a little bit of the detail, a little bit of the background. About July, August, staff put together an RFQ. The RFQ was based on projects that we have ongoing, future projects, future needs that the city is going to need. So we put together essentially 8 different areas of concern when it comes to engineering and the engineering world. Stormwater, water, wastewater, transportation, engineering review and construction observation, GIS, general contracting, project management, and then landscaping and photometrics. So what we did was we sent this out as a typical process, typical request for qualifications. We had quite a bit of response, some very good response actually. So what the city staff did was we came up with a selection committee. That selection committee was made up of the administrator, myself, and then our public works liaison. We had an evaluation criteria that was based in the RFQ that was sent out. That criteria, again, just reading from the memo here, it had experience, personnel that would be assigned to the city, the availability of that personnel, backup coverage / personnel, past performance in Lockport and other municipalities, and then knowledge and experience working with other agencies, and that would be with the county, with IDOT, with IDNR, FEMA, those types of things. So tried to evaluate, with a broad, evaluation process. Tried to look at everything that we could. Personnel that the actual engineering company would provide was very important, and having that comfort with who we would have moving forward, that they could do the process, do the project, but also be there when we needed them. So with that, we came up with a listing. The majority of the groupings, the 8 different categories, have 4 engineers selected. So what we've done is we've simply listed them in alphabetical order. Those 4 engineers would be in consideration for any future projects within that discipline. So for stormwater, there's 4 engineering companies that are listed. That's who we have shortlisted for future projects within the city. We can select one of them. We can go out for, again, an RFQ if we had a larger project and we wanted stormwater RFQ gone out, we could do that. Or since we've gone through the RFQ process and we have a good understanding of that individual company's background, we can just simply select them off this list. We also have 6 engineering consultants that are on a carryover project list, and that simply means that they are currently doing work for the city and they've got ongoing projects, and so we wanted to also include those in this, in a carryover project list. And so, again, one of the things that I did not mention, and I know I've mentioned this before, we had 11 that I could find over the past year and a half, 11 different engineering firms that we had used. And quite honestly, that is very bulky, it's very difficult. Each engineering company then has a handful of, contacts, engineers, surveyors, individuals that you're trying to reach out and have contact with. So it just became very cumbersome, And, you know, our thoughts moving forward was to condense that, put people in a position to succeed along with the city, and get the, you know, get that grouping down to a manageable level. So, again, this is for information. Any questions at this time, I would gladly take those.
Yeah, for everyone to understand, I was digging in on the process and all that stuff. Some of the good key points on this is we now have a standard contract that Sonny's looked at, Brent's looked at, and that'll be the standard contract for all these engineers. So there was a lot of contract signing back and forth and limitations of liability and so forth. So we're not accepting their contracts, they're going to be accepting ours by them submitting. So it should streamline the approval process, get things in order. This is a little bit untraditional for an RFQ process, but municipalities are going this route of actually getting a pool of engineers that they can go to, and then they always go to. Brent can pick on if somebody's been busy lately, they've gotten a lot of work, he's got another person to go to in a time of crunch, he can always make those evaluations. We can stop this at any time, right? 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, go out for an RFQ again, reshuffle the board and do that. Because way back when, we only had one engineer who was primarily doing all of our work, and there was a lot of complaints out of that. So I think getting a lot more people in here and spreading that work around, I think is good. I do have to say, and I talked to Ben about this, I do want to pull item 7 or group 7, landscaping. I think we kind of concentrated on sending this out to engineers, and a lot of the landscape architects, landscape firms weren't aware of this one. So if we can just extend this one and get more people in, because there are firms that specialize in that landscaping portion, that we could probably get a little different amount of people. So
yeah, we could certainly do that. I know that was one thing that Ben and I did discuss. I just want to be clear, we did not send this out to individual companies. I want to just make that clear. So we sent this out just as an RFQ, just like we would for anything we advertise for it. So I just want to be clear
absolutely.
on that. So
yeah, we didn't invite people, but people were made aware. Obviously, I work with a lot of engineers. JR works with a lot of engineers. Everything. We were trying to let people know, but I think where we were advertising, some of the landscape architects weren't getting that advertising. So they're like, because I talked to a couple and they said they weren't aware of it. So. We're in no rush with that one. I think everything else is good. I think the landscaping side, we just reissue it or just extend it by addendum and get some new people in there and see how that sorts out, see who's interested.
Then the other thing that Alderman Petrakis mentioned that was very important was that contract. I don't want to belabor the point, but we did go through that, and that contract was actually in the RFQ. So, I mean, that was a piece of the document, and so by submitting on this, it was a piece of their submittal and an acceptance of that. So,
all right, guys, sounds good. Thanks for your hard work on it. What else you got there, Brent?
PW2. This is some information this evening, and then hoping to get this on City Council for our next meeting. Citywide bridge inspections, as many of you are aware, we do have bridges across the city that we are required, responsible for maintenance on. There are 10 total bridges. They vary in inspection dates or in inspection periods by either 24 months or 48 months. So the newer the bridge is, the longer that time frame is. So a brand new bridge, you're not going to be out there inspecting it every 2 years. It'll be 4, and then it'll shorten up to 24 months. So in the past, Willett Hoffman and Associates has done that work. Prior to them, Robinson Engineering did the work. Based on our recent RFQ, we are working currently with Baxter and Woodman. I did not have time to get the contract put together. They did prepare a memo that I have included in here. So there is no cost, there is no information other than essentially the scope that we're working on the current contract with. The timing of the RFQ, completing that, and then selecting a company to move forward with this was kind of the hiccup. However, we do have to get this in October. This is what the push is, because we have 2 bridges that need to be inspected this year in October. So that's kind of the push here. So what we are bringing forth, so at the next council meeting, we can have this discussion and have a lot more detail. But if you, excuse me, if you go to Baxter and Woodman's second page of their memo, actually if we go to the first page of the memo, you can see the actual structures and the bridge locations. So that'll give everybody an idea of where these 10 bridges at. These are the 10 bridges that we're responsible for. Also, it gives the frequency, so either 24 months or 48 months, when the next inspections will take place. But then the second page, the agreement format, what we're looking for is a 4-year agreement. So every bridge will be inspected at least once. So that's what we're going to be coming forward with next year, or I'm sorry, next council meeting. A couple bridges, the reason that this says there will be 15 inspections, because several of those bridges will be inspected twice. You know, during the 4-year period, there's some that are on the 2-year, so those will be inspected twice during that 4-year period. Again, this is the route that we're currently negotiating and working through everything with the engineer. But again, this will be up for discussion and consideration at the next council meeting if council is in agreement. Any questions on that?
Well, I mean, I understand we need to get our bridges inspected. What I'm not following then 100% is we don't actually, we're voting on a contract that we don't have before us.
I don't have the contract currently, so I have the scope in this memo.
And so if next week or next meeting, we're like, this is a terrible contract.
It's going to have to go to the following council meeting. I mean, my hope is that we can come to a good agreement here and we can have something that's good to present. My hope is that because we do have 2 bridges that have to be inspected in October, my thought was trying to get ahead of it. The reason that I did not come sooner was because we had to get the RFQ done in order to select the engineer to start the proposal process with. I have a feeling that Baxter and Woodman, if that is who we elect to go with, they're going to work with us. They're not going to leave us hanging by any stretch. So if we did not have that contract approved, I still think we can work through it with them.
Okay.
But
anything else?
No. Weird question that I didn't bring up before, but we have to get our levy, right, inspected too, or the new one that we put in, or the
Chevron?
Is it Chevron property? Is that, would it be worth negotiating, since they're inspecting this, that they throw that in there?
That will be a structure that probably will be, that is obviously a new structure, so that's a good point.
Again, the Weir Dam?
The Weir Dam,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the dam in Weir, sure. Sure.
I will determine.
Totally different structure.
We accepted it, so it's not.
Yeah.
But if you're doing a 4-year thing then you're negotiating, get a price, and they fall under our standard contract now, right?
Correct. Yes.
All right, we'll put it on as an action item then.
Thank you. PW3, this is for the resurfacing project, 2017 resurfacing project. Phase 3 construction engineering services. The award for the resurfacing project was approved on September 6th. Austin Tyler in the amount of $845,831.16. The cost for the Phase 3, we're looking at a cost of $56,280. This is a net contract, so this will be based on actual hours worked. What I do want to say is this is the exact type of work that we would hope to have internal staff doing in the future. So I understand that this is maybe a little hard to look at right now, and understand that this is a resurfacing project. However, once we have internal staff, this is, like I said, this is a project that we would do internally. I'm looking for consideration this evening to add this to consent October 4th.
Brent, wouldn't,
Yes.
if we do end up hiring some people and we're doing interviews and things, and we get somebody up to speed fast enough, would they be able to cut this contract a little shorter too, or no?
My expectation would
Okay.
be that, and in fact, I did talk with Christopher Burke earlier this week about that, and they would be more than willing to accommodate and cut back their hours if we were able to hire somebody and bring them in. So yes.
I do want to comment on this observation engineer, because when it comes before us as another staff person, it's something we need. We're looking at this here as a $56,280 for one project, and versus, so if we don't hire somebody, an observation engineer, for X number of dollars, whatever that dollar amount is we're going to be paying this over and over and over and over, and it could be 4, 5, 6, 7 times that amount per year versus a salary and benefits. So it's cost beneficial to the city that we that when the time comes to have to approve a new employee, the new employee is going to save us hundreds of thousands of dollars that we don't have to go out like we do in this contract here.
All right, we all good with the consent agenda then?
Sure.
All righty. Any new business? I noticed the Roxy Theater marquee went up today. That looks really cool. So they're getting that ironed out. They still expect to have the inside done by the end of the year, so that'll be a fun project that a lot of people have worked hard on for a while now.
St. Joseph Oktoberfest is next weekend, the 29th, 30th, and October 1st.
That's right. Me and JR are pouring beer.
Mayor, I do want to say that, so going back to the Vital apartments, some of the questions that came out of it that made us do some work behind the scenes of looking at the apartment studies and seeing how many apartments we have and what that load is of apartments, how they can fit, if they're going to fit. And one thing we didn't really have a grasp on is we had the report that kind of covered like the bigger apartment units, but didn't have the single family homes that were turned into apartments, all this stuff downtown. Some of the stuff that's literally right next door to us, but it's in unincorporated, right? On the north side of 159th and like the northwest corner of Farrell on 159th. So we didn't have a grasp on that. So now that that apartment's gone, that has gone away, it should be something that we'd start discussing about understanding what is our makeup of residences in town so we can be prepared when the next person comes in or tries to propose something that we have a better grasp of what we have in town. And I don't know how we do that, and we get there when we talked about permits and landlord reviews or whatever that was, but.
Yeah, it's actually information I'd like. Ben and I have talked a little bit about it, but why don't we discuss how we can actually get the rest of that stock incorporated? I know I think it was Cross and Associates who did the study. I think they felt like, well, those aren't at the same market as these apartments because these are $1,100 a month, what have you, but I still would like to have a good feel for what all of our apartment stocks were. I think our whole job up here is to make decisions, so we need to have the best information we can have. So if there's a way we can look into doing that, Ben, why don't we discuss that a little bit? Okay. Summer Art Series this weekend. It should be fun. It's always a very interesting festival. And then one other, speaking of festivals, I met with Park District and some staff and the chamber about Old Canal Days next year. I know it's going to be a challenge because of the road construction. So we looked at some options. We talked about Delwood Park. The Park District's open to that, but they did foresee a lot of problems. It does get in the way of a lot of existing things that they do with the ball fields and everything. So they I think were open to entertaining it, but they weren't really hot for that idea. We did talk about over by the Heritage Village with some of that acreage we have from Chevron as a possibility. And then lastly, we talked about being able to keep it downtown. I know that, and it actually, Bob Morris presented the layout, and it's not bad. I know that Brent was there too. I think one of the things that we all felt was, knowing that the construction season is going to be difficult, and one of our concerns is about making sure we keep the downtown viable. The feeling was, can we maintain this in the downtown and not abandon kind of the buildings or the businesses that are down there, and can we make that work? I think Bob presented a pretty good plan to keep it down there. So just FYI for you guys. So.
Mayor, is the worst case scenario it goes on an unincorporated or a piece of parcel, or even Lockport Square, right? That's kind of paved right now. It just needs to be weeded. It's not downtown, but I'm saying it's a planned C or D.
Yeah, I mean, I think we like even the Heritage Village over there. I think that's all doable. So it's we've obviously thinking of keeping it next to the canal in some fashion, right? The spirit of it. But Bob convinced me that. I think although it's a little more challenging to fit it in downtown with the construction, it goes back to our commitment to not abandon the downtown businesses while we're going through this construction period. So I think trying to find a way to make it work down there is actually admirable, and I think the right thing to do. So anyways, and you guys are welcome to come to any of those meetings if you want. I can make sure Jody copies you when those happen, so.
Do we ever do it at the high school?
Like I said, you could do it on the moon. It doesn't really matter. It's like, what's the point of Old Canal Days? One, it's to, remember our heritage, which means having it at the canal makes a lot of sense, because a lot of the things that go on during that festival are right next to the canal and some of those historic buildings. And then two, again, is about making sure we continue to support the downtown businesses. So making sure we have people down there, and it actually will be a great opportunity, and I think our committee can also look at ways, maybe there's certain outreaches we can do while that festival is going on, to, visit these businesses or do something. There's some, I think, above and beyond that we can do, so.
How does that affect the parade and things like that?
We talked about that too. We looked at queuing it up on Jefferson Street and having it make a left turn and going down 9th Street past City Hall and over this bridge over the I&M, and then making a right onto Canal Street to queue out. So it'd be a shorter route, but we talked about, actually, the high school was willing to give us a bunch of their bleachers so we could actually set up out here in front of City Hall. We can have a big, deeper crowd with, so I think we can fit it, so.
Sounds good. So it's rerouting, basically.
Mhm.
Okay. Good.
All right, anything else? All right, we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
You guys need a break, or you want to plow
Yes.
through?
Stretch.
I just heard like, break, all right, 5 minutes?
Push me over the edge.
Okay.
All right, let's be back at 8:25. right, everybody, let's get rolling. Kathy's got her thumb in the air, man. That means get in your seat, yeah.
I can't be seen.
It's like, get it on. All right, we all ready? All right. City council meeting. Kathy Gentile, can we have a roll call, please?
Present.
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 Here.
Lost a little confidence there.
Here.
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 All right, very good, thank you. All right, so tonight we're looking to have a motion to have a consent agenda.
So
Make that
moved.
motion?
All right, Joanne and Jason.
You must want to go home.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Good. All right, so tonight's consent agenda is this: payroll period ending September 10th, various bills. We've got Julian Electrical Service and Engineering, the letter of credit reduction. There is the Building 6 Heritage Crossing Corporate Center letter of credit reduction. There is the PZC case 2017-008, which was the development for the hotel, Lockport Square. Facade and site improvement grant for 600 East 9th. There was the Illinois 7 roadway improvements from Lincoln Summit, so we could do Phase 1 engineering. And then there was the our zero-turn mower, Resolution 17075. So looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion.
That's Renee.
And second.
Seconded by Jim. Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
I have two
Yeah.
questions
Yes.
first. One is just so the council knows, I sent a question yesterday about the K-9. I don't know if you guys saw it. It's like $2,500 a month. We haven't paid all year, and it's like $20,000, I think, is on the list. I wasn't sure that we've ever actually approved that as a council. I know we approved the nuisance one, but not the K-9 one. And at $20,000, we should. And I asked a couple of questions like, is this a regular going rate? Is it not? And Huff, right, is that who you reached out to? Was not in today to be able to get those answers. So I would actually ask that we just pull that. I'm sure he's got good answers, but I would like to just hear that it's been reviewed at some point. So I would request that we pull that until the next meeting.
Anybody-
Given that we haven't paid yet this year and it's 8 months worth of payment, I would hope 2 extra weeks isn't that big of a deal.
It's fine.
Is that doable over there, Lisa? All
Yes,
good? You guys,
absolutely.
any objections to that?
No, I asked the same question.
All right, so
Oh,
we'll pull that off of the bills.
I just can't remember when it was. I remember presenting something I thought the police department did, but Terry's not here.
I remember the nuisance one for like critters.
Yeah, maybe it was a different one. We'll research it.
This is probably well documented.
Yeah,
I
since
just
we've
don't
been on the
remember.
board, we haven't seen anything
You
about the
haven't seen
nuisance, the K-9, any of that stuff, so.
It
So-
could have been a multi-year deal. I don't know. We'll pull it. We'll find out.
Yeah, so it's probably totally appropriate. It just, we didn't have the time to turn around the answers to the question.
Well, I think I've had a lot of questions with Ben about like the critters, the whatchamacallit, what are we paying, who's for what, and there's like different, and it wasn't even the K-9, it was somebody else about nuisance stuff.
I do
so.
remember the kind of critter one.
We talked about the K-9 thing sometime in the recent past.
Because it's confusing because it's canine guardians and everyone thinks it's the dog training, but it's not. It's
And,
this.
Oh, I thought it was.
And
Yeah.
I'm gonna be, my recollection is it was 2013,
For my time?
prior to that election in 2013.
Oh.
Because I remember who asked the question on the council.
Well,
Person's not on the council right now.
That person's no longer on the council.
all right, that's cool. I think we all agreed to
We'll
yank
pull
it
the
for-
contracts and see if they were multi-year or not, or, yeah, we can do that.
Did it sound like it's something else, too?
And then yeah, my second one was on the zero-turn mower. I thought we were going to get, from last time, I thought we were talking about a decent amount more understanding of where we mow, what the plans are, how we're gonna staff that. I thought that.
I know we're
was
working on
My
that.
understanding for committee of the
Yeah.
whole, and I haven't seen that.
Yeah, but I thought we're still.
We were
okay
still
with
buying the
getting-
mower, I thought. We're working on a list for you. We're gonna have those addresses. We're gonna sync maps, all that kind of stuff, but we weren't planning to present that tonight.
Like, the staff recommendation was regardless, we're gonna need a mower, and so that's why we put it on the consent agenda. I don't have a problem with that. You guys wanna keep, we'll pull the other thing for now, and
How long do you think it'll take for that map?
I mean, I personally have the map. What I don't have is I have to go through each of the individual areas and figure out what those areas are, the acreages are, you know, kind of, and I'd like to also put, what are we doing there? Is it kind of an open field? Are we trimming? Are we weeding, edging? You know, all the different types of things. So it's going to be a little bit of a process. I mean, I'd love to tell you I can have it in a week. I mean, realistically,
now that we're at the end of
realistically,
It's a winter project.
And honestly, I do want to look at it a little bit more, so maybe it's fair. For instance, I know we go out to Barry for Victoria Crossing, and I think we pay them $600, $700, $800 a month for that area. It's a decent size, but they mow a retention pond twice a month, right? I mean, a couple $100 for one mowing of that, and I know the neighbors aren't always satisfied with the mow, but in Barry's defense, there's some sitting water that's not their fault either. I mean, a couple $100 per time to go through is a pretty reasonable price to pay for a retention pond. So it probably does deserve more time. I guess when we get to it, probably
best
does
thing we're
deserve
gonna get
more.
is what we're doing, what Barry's doing, what other people are doing, right? The park district's doing.
Right.
We have a basic understanding of what everyone is and how much time, right? Because that was a question that came up last time. Like, does it really take a month to go through? But so we have that better understanding. We're at the end of the season now, so I know it's not. We don't need something next week or next meeting. I get it. You're short-staffed.
But apparently we need a mower now.
and truthfully, the mower probably should have been purchased at the beginning of the year.
I'm okay with the mower.
You know, but
That's fine.
It was budgeted, but yeah.
All right, my friends, so we'll do a roll call with that one item removed.
Yes.
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 What was removed? Just the one item off the various bills then?
The canine.
Okay. I vote yes on all items on the consent agenda except those that involve my employer, and on that item, in this case, item 2, paying of various bills, I abstain.
Yes.
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 All righty then. Let's roll on down to CED 1. Pam, what do you got?
Yes, thank you. As you will recall, this item was presented at the last Committee of the Whole meeting. The applicant, Tom Small, is seeking rezoning from R1 Single Family Residential and O2 General Office to R2 Single Family Residential for property located south of the creek and immediately east of Creekside subdivision. This was also a promise that was made during discussions on the industrial development, which we will be speaking about next, in which the owner of the property agreed to complete this rezoning. Staff is recommending approval of ordinance number 17-003 and would ask the council to do a motion to approve the same. This does require 6 affirmative votes for approval, and the mayor, you get to vote.
All right, so looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we got Jim and JR. Any comments? All right, we'll do a roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
All right, CED 2.
Yes, the next item is for the proposed Prologis Industrial Business Park. The items under consideration are the development agreement, special use permit for a planned industrial development, preliminary development plan, and subdivision plat. These items were presented also at the Committee of the Whole meeting on September 6th. Staff provided an overview of the development agreement, the special use, as well as the preliminary plans and plat. The applicant was present, and his attorney is present, and they are present again this evening. The development agreement essentially includes development conditions, which will be applicable to the entire development. And these were a result of negotiations as well as concerns raised by residents at the time the project came through the process. The development agreement, staff confirmed that the preliminary landscape plans did reflect the transitional buffer yard areas in excess of city's requirements. This will be a 5-building industrial park built in 2 phases, possibly 3 if building 5 is separated out. That would happen because the applicant has agreed to work with the city on marketing this particular lot for commercial and non-warehousing industrial users. The only discussion, which was a carryover from the rezoning, had to do with clarification on maintenance obligations along the creek line. Staff was then directed to place this on this evening's agenda. There are 3 items that staff recommends approval of and seeks a motion from the council to approve. That would include resolution number 17-083, which relates to the development agreement, ordinance number 17-032, which is the ordinance for the special use permit for planned industrial development, and the final resolution number 17-082 would be the resolution that would approve the preliminary development plan and subdivision plat.
Okay, so let's take all 3 of these. So looking for a motion to approve 17-083.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Jim and JR. Any comments or concerns on this?
When, like the comments we had at the last meeting about the sign, all that, they're still working with you. This is just preliminary, doing
Yes.
that, and the elevations that we sent, we talked about the elevations
Yes,
of the buildings.
correct.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Kathy, can you do a roll call, please?
Saban?
Yes.
Petracos?
Yes.
Birdbauer?
Yes.
Lovely?
Yes.
Vandermeer?
Yes.
Deskin?
Yes.
Bartleson?
Yes.
Coretta?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, next one here is a motion to approve 17-032.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Jim and JR again. Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to do a roll call, please.
Saban?
Yes.
Petracos?
Yes.
Birdbauer?
Yes.
Lovely?
Yes.
Vandermeer?
Yes.
Deskin?
Yes.
Bartleson?
Yes.
Coretta?
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, and then the last one here is looking for a motion to approve Resolution 17-082, which is the preliminary development plan and subdivision plat.
So moved.
Ooh,
Second.
Christine and Christina and JR, like a little angel. All right, any comments, concerns on this one? Okay, looking for a roll call then.
Saban?
Yes.
Petracos?
Yes.
Birdbauer?
Yes.
Lovely?
Yes.
Vandermeer?
Yes.
Deskin?
Yes.
Bartleson?
Yes.
And Coretta?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, my friends, anything else for new business that you forgot about last time? All right, then look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Jim and JR. All in favor?
Aye.
So anyways, the first workshop that I'm going to tomorrow is at 2:00.